Well, hello again from soteriologicgarden.com and welcome to the Ark. As you can see, I have a water collection system when it rains with a particular float switch and a very powerful pump which is run on a 12-volt battery system. I can pump water into my expansion tanks and also into underground piping beneath these beds, which I'm going to show you. So have a look at this. There's a T-joint, and if you follow these pipes down, each one leads into the bottom of these raised beds. Now this was built by my father, and I advised putting these pipes in 15 years ago, but never used them until about 2 years ago. So I set this up. Come over here, the same thing. So I've got these underground pipes and they link up at the end and come back through here. So any surplus water will end up coming out through that small extension there. So what happens? The rain comes along, and it's a lot of rain sometimes, and this system fills up very, very quickly. When it fills up, there's a float switch. I'm just going to pull it, and you can hear that. It doesn't matter if it's leaking, because the water's just going straight back into the cistern. I have two outlets here. This one's going to an expansion tank, which I'll lead to in a minute. And this one, which is closed, goes to the underground watering system. Now, underground watering systems are very, very good, because the more water you have or moisture you have underground, the more likely you can pull down the rain when it does rain here. So effectively it uses capillary reaction. It's drawing water up as well as drawing water down. It's not to do with gravity or anything like that. It's to do with the attraction, the electrical charge within water, why it can actually move a small distance only through soil in vertical position. So let's take a look at this, another T-joint, look at that. One that's going off to the expansion tank, and one that gives me a lovely shower. So now let's look at the 12-volt battery system I have, and the housing I built for it. There's a gel battery inside there, with a few hundred kilos of weight on top of it to prevent it from being robbed. There's a waterproof house concrete structure here, which has a control box, another pump, and a USB charger, as you can see. And there's two more 12-volt batteries in there, deep cycle batteries. Unfortunately, I lost a couple last year, and that really restricted the amount of water I could pump around the system, especially when you increase the size or the power of your pumps. But that pump you can see in front of you is my shower unit, and it also pumps water on that T-joint up into the expansion tank. So that's what I mean by an expansion tank. So that's collecting surplus water. Hi again from Akorobi. Just about to have another potential thunderstorm, but that doesn't mean anything now. They're predicting 5-6 days of rain and showers, and we get about an hour of light rain. This is how it is here. It's very particular, this spot. It's a microclimate. They can get it just a few kilometers down the road, but we live in very, very dry soils. But anyway, on that subject, because one of the things I'm doing here is building soil, and I'm building it with charcoal. So where everybody burns everything and the burning season's over now, I've got myself a really good double barrel system to make biochar, and I do use a mixture of pine, olive and carob, and the odd bit of almond as well, but generally it's mainly pine from the tornado that went and ripped through the back end of the land and left a load of fallen trees. Saying that, the quality is still very good, especially in making soil, but then you can still use it for purification systems like water cleansing systems. As a salt additive, it actually attracts nutrients and holds moisture. But then I also use it for cooking a lot and heating the caravan during the winter. And cooking it's a very important source of fuel, because when you're cooking outdoors, trying to cook on open flame is very, very difficult to control the food, and you generally burn a lot of stuff, or you undercook it and it takes too long. But when you've got a base of charcoals, and you can be really profligate with that, you know, you can just put down huge amounts of charcoal if you're making it yourself, and then you create a very controlled source of heat which doesn't blacken the pan so much. So what I want to show you is my last burn before the end of the burning season, and I want to show how much I can make in one 50-gallon drum of charcoal. Now I've deliberately left this here for about a week, but I'm afraid that if you leave it in there for too long, the water will begin to rust the bottom of the barrel, and then I'll have to build another one. But let's have a look at it. I'm here basically. I'm 3/4 of the way up this barrel. That's the most I've ever made. I'm going to tip it out and you're going to have a look at it. This is my double barrel system. As you can see, I've got a sleeve around the outside, which is the key to making very good charcoal, or to create a very good burn. And I've got the air holes. One of the reasons why you leave it to dry out is because it's bloody heavy when it's full of water. I have to use water to douse it so it doesn't burn away during the night. Now I'm selling this at €3 for 2 kilos, which is probably a little bit expensive nowadays, but when you go and buy a packet of my stuff, you're supporting a project, and you're supporting local industries, and you're trying to change the awareness or the consciousness of the people to appreciate the fact that you can't just burn every bit of wood on your land. You can actually think about it as a resource. So let's have a look. This is the sort of stuff I'm making. This is pine, I can tell straight away. The material is much lighter. I've got some good videos on this somewhere, and I've got how to make biochar on my South London permaculture.com page in the gardening section. So if you want to know how to do it, I travelled to Africa to perfect this method. So there we have it. There's a great project in the corner of the chicken one. This is a reclaimed swimming pool with flat bottom, and I've had to dig out quite an extensive area, but I chose this point here because of the added shelter. Now this is far from finished. There's going to be a lot of settling, and there's something we could look at here. One of the principles of permaculture, which is relative location. So in my excavations, I have uncovered something of the depth of the soil here. It was my intention that we take a good look around the whole chicken pen. As you can see, it's a square. It's always my intention to actually put in a food tunnel here, another arc, so to speak, and I have the materials for that. And then to use the manure and the liquid fertilizer coming out of the pond and out of the chicken house to grow my crops. It'll obviously have to be much more sealed unit than the one that's already established over in that direction. And after the sort of revelation of seeing how big geese eggs are, especially if you're in Spain as such, because you know we eat a lot of tortillas here, omelettes as you may call them, but geese eggs or even duck eggs are a wonderful addition to your chicken egg. And so long as you have a pair, a male and female, then you don't have a problem of getting a substantial amount of eggs during the year. Unfortunately, this old boy, it's been around for a long time and tends to favour cockerels, but that's another story. So inside this chicken pen, and in reference to my relative location, I'm growing crab apple and jujube, which are very adaptable trees and can withstand, as you can see, the very stony soil here. Now I wondered why the soil was so stony, but it's simply due to the fact that chickens scratch everywhere they go, and they literally scratch the stones back to the top of the surface. So when I was excavating here, I discovered quite a lot of deep soil, and I wondered whether other parts of the land, and especially where trees are growing so profuse in, look at that carob tree, it's absolutely laden with fruit this year. That's going to be my money tree this year. But the bees go in there, they love it under there. There's a lot more moisture, and in this corner I'm growing hazel, which normally wouldn't withstand direct sunshine. So under the shade of that carob tree, I'm growing hazels there. Maybe you can catch a glimpse of one of them. And I'm on the side of the, how shall I say, I'm on the lee side. So there we are, just a hazel there. You can see next to the container of water. So this row of cypress trees is absolutely perfect. This is relative location. This is basically, I'm on the side that the wind normally comes from. Now I planted these cypress trees here, one to mitigate the wind that was going through the food tunnel in that direction, and two to provide future shade. So the sun actually comes up from the other side, and you can imagine when these trees are 30-40 feet tall, it's going to be a lovely area for all animals concerned. And that will probably give any crops a much better chance of surviving, because one, just due to the relative location of this place and the surrounding vegetation, there won't be so much wind at ground level, and two, there won't be so much evaporation. So when I was digging here, I'm always looking for resources, so I haven't quite finally designed the finished product here, but I'm probably going to make it into some sort of garden. So there we are. And it wasn't originally going to be there at that point. It was going to be in a slightly different orientation, but I discovered this massive bedrock, and it gave me an idea of creating a waterfall. So there's a potential there to create even a tiny waterfall, just to pump water from the top. So I'm not going to do much more with this pond. I'm going to wait for the rains to come and for all the soil to settle. And by the time the chickens are finished with it, there's going to be loads of stones and bits and pieces inside. So there's no point trying to do the finished product right now. Right. Got an example here where I'm in two minds. This cross beam here is tied into two places. It's pegged at this point and then it enters through a crux there at the weekend. Whoop. So I wanted to test this end to see if the wind could actually pick it up, throw the whole thing out, and it moved. Probably moved enough to concern me. I mean, what I'm going to do then, well, what I want to do is run a peg through here all the way through. There's quite a long peg. That's at least 12-inch long peg. And now the problem is I haven't got the drill bit long enough for that. It's actually blunt. So, and I've had to make do on other parts of the structure here by coming in from both ends, and then you can get it wrong. So I'm going to attempt to come in at both ends with a smaller drill bit and then see how that fares when I put a larger one in. So this is my point of view. That's the size of my peg. And in fact, I'm using a broom handle, just taken down with my hole plane. Cut that afterwards. So this drill auger bit is going to go through at least one and make a mark in the second part, but actually and then I'm going to have to figure out a way how to get that hole deeper, because I can't move these now, not move them enough anyway. Okay, I'm allowed to shout. You get a lovely view. The treetops here in Catalonian landscape. I'm going to go at a slight declination. It may be that the peg doesn't need to go completely through both trunks. So I'm a little bit through on the second trunk, but you can see that if you've got the correct tools, you make plain sailing of this, especially when you've got to do lots of different holes everywhere when you're frame working. So now I've got to come out with an idea how I'm going to get this all the way through to both pieces, and I'm going to dwell in it for a moment. So hey, I've taken it off the brace and I'm doing something which is against the rules, but then that's what makes me a great learner, because I'm always breaking rules. I can see why rules are created in the first place and apply them as I see necessary, but I do break the rules a lot, and that, to actually go beyond this point when you're drilling a hole, is detrimental to the auger bit. So they recommend you buying a longer auger bit. Let's go.
They're drowning, man.
Hey. So I was a little worried because it gets hot. Because when you go beyond the length of the drill bit, then it's not pulling out the material and throwing it out the hole. So the material that's cutting gets stuck in the hole, and this causes more friction, and that's why it can break the bit. So I'm just going to give that a little break for a minute whilst that cools down, clean out the hole, and then I'm only about probably 1.5 inches from this side, so hopefully you'll see it come through. I've got the long auger bit up there to clean out the hole, and there isn't really that much to go. Here it is. Okie dokie. Pop up. Yeah, pop. Maybe this is where the idea of witches and broomsticks came from, you know, craft, working with the nature of wood. Finding yourself on top of a few treetops. Alright, took my blood. Last one of the year, I think, because I've got to prioritise my work, look at other projects which are going on the farm. So you can volunteer with me, soteriologicgarden.com, and the best times really are when I'm not taking a holiday, which is during the winter, but spring and autumn, which is the coming up to now, which is the cropping season. But the cropping season has been really early this year, so I already started at the end of July, but I've got mountains of carobs to pick. I've got no olives this year. So if you want to get in contact at Alcorobi, find me at soteriologicgarden.com. and become a site member.